people, as I've already promised you, we are going to talk about the education system at all and what it feels like to study abroad, does it worth it, etc. Let me introduce you my friend Leyla from Chicago. She owns a hospitality business and a food tech startup. She makes content on personal, professional, and educational development. She studied in Les Roches in Switzerland, and I'm going to leave her channel's link and her Instagram's link in the description below so you can contact her.
All right, so the first thing is deciding if studying abroad is for you. I think the most important question to ask when it comes to education abroad is whether or not you want to do it. I know that a lot of us can be carried away by current trends, the pressure that our friends and family are putting on us, and the statistics, the companies that are hiring from international universities, current educational, economic, social, and political trends, social media where you see a lot of people studying abroad and conquering mountains and oceans. But I think that the most important thing to do when deciding whether or not you want to study abroad is to ask yourself if you want to do it. I think it's very important to separate yourself from all the pressure that is being put on us out there and to really understand whether or not that's for you. To be able to understand whether or not studying abroad is for you without thinking of all the economic and social consequences of not studying abroad, I think that another important question to ask is, are you 100% sure this is something that you want to do? Because studying abroad involves a lot of traveling, and it involves a lot of airport trips, it involves a lot of flying, and if you are someone who is very emotionally attached to their family, are you going to be feeling homesick? And these are all the questions that you should be considering and before making that decision. So what I have done for you guys is I have looked up this quiz online, which you can take to really understand whether or not studying abroad is for you. So the quiz is available on this website, which I'm going to link down below for you guys. So if you click on taking the quiz, it starts asking you questions on whether or not studying abroad is for you or whether or not that matches your desire. So for example, the first question is, do you like to travel? And then you can pick I love it down to not really, but I would manage. And then you click OK, and it takes you to the next question, which is why do you want to study abroad? And then here, I guess they're trying to measure whether or not your decision is fueled by an internal desire or by peer pressure and, current trends and all that. For example, you could pick, others told me that it's a great thing to do, things like that. So I definitely recommend taking this quiz and understanding whether or not studying abroad is really for you. All right, we're back here and we're gonna answer question number 2, and that is how to decide where and when to study abroad. Now on this channel, I do get a lot of comments such as, should I do my bachelor's in Europe or in the United States? Should I do my master's in the US or in Asia? There are a lot of questions like that, and I'm not an educational consultant, and usually what I tell some of my viewers, although I do recommend taking my recommendations and my advice with a grain of salt. What I would do is, if I was planning 2 degrees, if I was planning on getting a bachelor's and a master's degree, I would definitely do one in Europe and the second one in the US, or vice versa. I would definitely pursue these 2 degrees in 2 different countries just for the sake of diversity. But here are some of the questions that I would like you to ask yourself when deciding on where and when to study abroad. And the first one is making a list of all the countries that you have always dreamt of traveling to. When choosing a location for studying abroad, remember that you are making a choice that's going to stretch beyond the university campus. You could be picking a university that is in the middle of nowhere, and without considering the city and the country that goes along with that college, you could be making a wrong decision. The entire experience of studying abroad must be complemented by everything else that that geographic location is going to offer you. The second thing to do when choosing when and where to study is to measure the pros and cons. And I did my bachelor's degree in Switzerland. The biggest pro about choosing that college was the college itself, and the biggest con about choosing that college was the location. I was totally stranded in the middle of nowhere, literally, you guys, in the middle of nowhere in the Swiss Alps. I didn't have a car during my first 5 semesters. I couldn't travel out of that city because it was so expensive. So my entire student experience was tied down to that little campus that was located in the middle of nowhere. And that was not something that I had considered at the time. So yeah, that was a decision that I made at the time without having considered the village that that university was located in. Some of the students loved the fact that the university was located in the middle of nowhere because there were no distractions that could divide your attention from your classes. Deciding on where you want to study is also going to affect you in the long term. So for example, if you want to be a student in Switzerland, the visa that you get allows you to work 20 hours per week legally, where you can be paid the minimum wage. In the United States though, it's completely different. If you are here on an F1 visa, you're only allowed to work on campus at your college. You're not allowed to take any of the outside jobs outside your college. But Switzerland does not offer an OPT visa where you can stay in Switzerland and work there after your studies. And the United States does that. And here you can get an OPT visa here in the United States. You can stay and work and pursue an H-1B and eventually get a green card. So that is definitely something to consider when picking a location. And when it comes to choosing when you want to study abroad, I wanted to really circle back to some of the comments that I am receiving very, very frequently. And a lot of these comments are along the lines of, hey Leyla, I am 35 and my life is over. I feel like it's too late for me to get started on anything, and education abroad is a dream that is far gone for me, and I feel like it's too late for me. And what I want to say is that it is never, never, ever late for you to pursue your degree, especially in the United States. You could be getting your bachelor's degree in a classroom with people of all different ages, and I think that's beautiful, and I think that's great, and I think that there's a lot of stigma around, getting your education later in life. In my culture today, we are taking that stigma down. It doesn't matter how old you are, you can always pursue your education at any stage of your life, and there is no shame associated with that. Also, another thing that I wanted to touch base on when it comes to when, for example, in my culture, there is a lot of pressure on pursuing your master's degree right after getting your bachelor's. What I like about the United States and the culture here is that there is no such pressure, and even the students that graduate from high school are encouraged to take a gap year and to explore themselves and life really, and to decide later on what they want to pursue and what they want to do with their lives. And I think that's great. I personally don't have a master's degree. I'm not planning on getting a master's degree anytime soon. The next question is how to find study abroad programs. This is one of the questions that I get a lot across all my social media accounts. Ways of finding opportunities for education abroad change every year with the trends and the opportunities that change on an annual basis. Some of the colleges offer scholarship opportunities that are only available for that specific year. Some of the governments offer scholarships that will only be available for a certain period of time. So this is something that you need to research independently, and this is something that you really need to dive into when you've made your decision that you want to study abroad. I wouldn't recommend starting your research way in advance. Say if you want to study abroad in 5 years from now, there is a lot of possibility that some of the opportunities that are currently available might not be available in 5 years from now. On the other hand, I strongly recommend consulting educational agencies, because they're in this industry, because they're in such close touch with universities and the colleges that they collaborate with, it's always a good idea to do your research in collaboration with professional consultants. On the other hand, obviously there are thousands of Facebook groups that you can take advantage of when it comes to researching study abroad opportunities. Another way of finding study abroad programs is finding a mentor, conducting your research in collaboration with your mentor, finding someone that has already earned that scholarship, finding someone that is graduating from the college of your dreams, finding someone that lives in the country where you want to pursue your education. That is going to be very helpful in this entire process, because you can also get a personal perspective of someone that has been through all those steps. Another thing that I wanted to mention right now in terms of finding study abroad opportunities is also finding virtual study abroad opportunities. A lot of the times we do think that education abroad is for us. We do think that we want to study abroad, but once we get there and we're in an international classroom environment, we realize that this is not something that we have wanted. This is too overwhelming. It's scary. It gives us a lot of anxiety, and we have not made the right decision. I do definitely recommend signing up for a virtual study abroad opportunity, maybe joining a 6-week course at a university with a group of international students. Being in that environment virtually, experiencing that virtually without having committed to all the visa and budgeting processes that have to do with studying abroad. And yeah, virtual opportunities are definitely something, especially now with coronavirus and the pandemic taking over the world. I feel like virtual opportunities are to-go opportunities currently in the market, and I definitely recommend checking them out. All right, so number 4 is how to build a support system. And I specifically wanted to include this question in today's video because I wanted to touch base on the support system, because it is such an important part of this entire process. For some of us, studying abroad is a simple process where you pick a university, you pick a college, city, and country, you get your visas done, you get your tickets, your family is there for you, and you simply pursue your dreams. For a lot of the other people out there, especially for a lot of the women in Azerbaijan, education abroad is not an easily accessible opportunity. A lot of the women from my culture are oppressed and are deprived of these opportunities simply due to discrimination against women. It is very, very important for every single person that wants to study abroad to build a healthy support system. That support system could be your family, but on the other hand, if your family does not support your educational aspirations, try to find that support system in another community. Try to build that support system emotionally and financially outside of your family. Try to find like-minded people that respect and value education and that will support you in your endeavors. And for me specifically, it was like that because my family did not support my education. They did not support the idea of education for girls. So I had to build that support system outside of my family. And also another thing that I wanted to mention when it comes to establishing a support system is knowing that you are your own biggest supporter. Do try and find those internal resources to support yourself. And also in terms of financial support, if your family is not supporting you in your educational endeavors, they're probably not going to be very willing to pay for your education. I definitely recommend keeping your scores up, keeping your GPA up, getting your IELTS and TOEFL, getting good results on those exams, saving up a little bit of money, and really supporting yourself financially on this journey, getting student jobs as a student, working and studying at the same time, because trust me, you guys, education is so worth it. All right, number 5 is budgeting for studying abroad. So budgeting is huge. It's very important. It's an essential part of your study abroad journey. And to me personally, budgeting was the hardest part. It was the part that I struggled with most, because when I got accepted into a university in Switzerland, I was simply broke. Although I did have a job in Azerbaijan, I was very bad at my finances. I wasn't saving money, and yeah, but I was lucky because I did get a scholarship that covered my tuition. And then upon arrival to Switzerland, I started looking for student jobs. I found a lot of different types of student jobs, and I was able to support myself financially in Switzerland. But budgeting is definitely something that you want to consider. And what I recommend doing is, once you've made your decision that you do want to study abroad, it is probably going to take you about 6 months to a year to get your acceptance letter, to get your admissions, to get your visas. And I do recommend picking up multiple jobs for the entire duration of your wait time. While your applications are pending, do pick up multiple jobs and try to save at least 30% of your income for the new beginnings that you're gonna be embarking on in the new country. And when it comes to budgeting, I would really stress on budgeting for accommodation, transportation, and food. And definitely going on to Facebook groups, looking for affordable accommodation, looking up all the cheap supermarkets in the area, checking on some of the discounts that you can get for public transport, and researching all of this in advance will help you a lot in the long run. All right, so our next question is going to be about choosing your college and your major. It's an important decision that will stick with you in the long run, and it will determine a lot of the future opportunities in your life. Identifying your interests, identifying your values, and identifying how that's going to play out in your future is very important when making this decision. Another thing to consider is identifying your abilities. It's important to know what you're good at, and it's important to know the gaps that you could fill. Those are the skills that you want to build during your studies, because at the end of the day, you're going to that college, you're picking that major to add value onto what you already have. Another thing to consider when picking your major is that it's considering whether or not that's going to be employable in the long run. Obviously, it is very important to follow our passions. It is very important to pick a major that aligns with our values and passions and interests, but it is also important to consider the social and economic side of the deal. It's important to consider whether or not this choice is going to be employable in the long run. Is this professional area going to become obsolete in the long run? So I have found this great quiz online, the college major quiz. So this quiz basically helps you find the major that best fits your personality. So I'm gonna link this quiz down below for you guys, and you can take this quiz to really understand which major is best for you. Because I feel like quizzes really do give us an opportunity to identify some of the things that we may have ignored about ourselves. All right, you guys, so this is gonna be it for today's video. I was very, very happy to have collaborated with Shule on this topic. To conclude, I want to say that the most important thing when making all of these decisions is making sure that you're happy and you are prioritizing your desires, values, interests, and abilities. So good luck with everything, and I hope to see you guys in my next video.